My name is Asher Whitlow, and I didn't come to the countryside looking for trouble. I came for peace, for silence, for something simple. But fate doesn't care what you're looking for. Sometimes it hands you a shivering lamb and a furious farmer and dares you to figure it out. It started with a weekend escape. I live in Melbourne, where the noise never stops. I'm a freelance photographer, mostly wildlife and nature features for Australian Geographic. After a tough few months, 2 back-to-back deadlines and a breakup that left my apartment colder than usual, I booked a last-minute cabin 2 hours out near the Yarra Ranges. It was rustic. No Wi-Fi, spotty reception, the kind of place where you boil your own kettle and make friends with the spiders in the shower. I loved it. On my second morning, I grabbed my camera and went for a walk. The early fog still clung to the trees, and the dew soaked through my boots. I followed a narrow dirt path past eucalyptus groves and patches of grazing land. Then I heard it. A faint bleat. At first I thought I imagined it, but then it came again, desperate, high-pitched, coming from beyond the wooden fence up ahead. I climbed over. The paddock stretched far and empty, aside from a distant rusted shed and a scattering of sheep across the field. The bleating came from behind a tangle of blackberry bushes near the creek. I crouched, pushing branches aside. That's when I saw her. A tiny lamb, no older than a few days, stuck in the brambles, trembling, its leg bleeding where a thorn had scratched deep. Her wool was damp, her eyes wide with fear. I didn't think. I just acted. I gently untangled her, whispering softly, "It's all right. I've got you." She didn't struggle, just sagged into my arms like she was too tired to fight. I looked around. No sign of a mother ewe, no tag on the lamb's ear, nothing to suggest someone was nearby. I wrapped her in my jacket and started back toward the trail. That's when I heard the shouting. "Oi, what the hell do you think you're doing?" I turned to see a man stomping across the field, late 40s, lean, sunburnt skin, boots that had seen years of hard land. He stopped in front of me, glaring at the lamb in my arms. "That's mine." "I didn't see any tags," I said carefully. "She was caught in the thorns, bleeding. I was just taking her for help. You can't just go lifting livestock off someone else's land." "She was alone, injured," he scoffed. "Still not your call. That's theft." I blinked. "Theft? You took her off my property. That's enough. I was trying to help. Well, now you're going to pay." His name was Callum Briggs, and he ran the farm bordering the conservation land. He claimed the lamb had wandered from his flock during shearing the day before. I offered to take her to a vet and return her, or better yet, pay the vet bill if he preferred. He didn't budge. "No, you took her. That means you buy her. That's how it works." "But sheep don't come free, mate. You break it, you buy it." I stood in stunned silence. This couldn't be real. "You're seriously trying to charge me for rescuing a lamb?" He didn't even blink. $150. $150? Purebred merino. Probably more, but I'll cut you a deal since you're new to this whole moral farm thief thing. I looked down at the lamb, still shaking in my arms. I sighed. Fine. Back at my cabin, I cleaned her wound with warm water and antiseptic from the first aid kit. She whimpered once, but stayed mostly still. I wrapped her in a towel and placed her gently in a box by the fireplace. The next few hours passed slowly. I couldn't focus on editing my photos. All I could do was keep looking at the lamb, this tiny, helpless creature who had no idea she was now my property. What kind of farmer charges someone for helping? But then again, maybe I didn't understand rural life. Maybe there were rules I didn't know. Maybe Callum wasn't heartless, just hardened. Still, something about the whole thing felt off. I emailed a local vet the next morning and asked if I could bring her in. They confirmed the leg wasn't broken, just badly bruised and scratched. A few days of rest and she'd be fine. When I returned to the cabin, there was a note pinned to the front door. "Lamb thief, you still owe me. Don't forget." No signature, just a scrawl in rough handwriting. I crumpled it in my fist. That night, I named her Lulu. On Sunday, I drove out to town to stock up on supplies, milk formula, bottles, towels. The girl at the pet shop lit up when she saw me. "Oh, you're the one Callum's been whinging about." I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "Lamb rescuer. He's been telling everyone about some city guy who wandered in and stole his stock. Said you looked like a vegan documentary filmmaker." I laughed dryly. "I'm a wildlife photographer." "Close enough." "Is he always like this?" She shrugged. "Callum's not bad, just gruff, had a rough year, lost his brother last spring. Farm's been struggling." My annoyance faltered. Loss changes people. Still, it didn't excuse the note. The week passed with Lulu growing stronger. She followed me around the cabin, her limp easing with every day. I got used to the bleats, to the tiny hooves tapping across the wooden floor. I sent photos of her to my sister, who demanded I bring her home permanently. I laughed. Then one morning I woke to a banging on the door. It was Callum. He looked rougher than before, less angry, more tired. "She's still with you?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "She's doing better." "She should be with her flock." I frowned. "You said I bought her. You said I—" He shifted. "Yeah, but it's not right, not without her mother." I opened the door wider. He stepped in, took one look at Lulu curled up by the fire, and stopped cold. His face changed. "She looks just like—" "Never mind." "What?" He didn't answer, just knelt beside her. "She's not mine," he said quietly. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "She's not tagged, not clipped. My lambs are done in batches, ear tags, numbers all recorded." I stared. "So, she's not yours?" He nodded slowly. I lied. Silence fell between us. I felt the anger rise in my throat. "You made me pay for her." "I know." "You pinned a threatening note to my door." "I know." "Why?" He stood up, hands shaking slightly. "Because I didn't want to admit I'd lost control, the farm, myself, everything. I saw a stranger with a lamb and I saw weakness, and I lashed out." I didn't know what to say. Then he added something that changed everything. "She's not mine, but she looks exactly like the one my brother and I raised when we were kids. He named her June, bottle-fed her, called her his best friend." He swallowed. "She died 2 days before he did." I stared at him. This wasn't about livestock. It was about grief, unprocessed, heavy, still sharp. Lulu had stirred something in him, a memory, a loss, and he'd panicked. We sat by the fireplace that afternoon. He didn't say much, just watched Lulu sleep, her tiny ears flicking now and then. Finally, I broke the silence. "You want her back?" He looked at me. "No, she's yours now. She chose you." That night, I received another note. This one was slid under the door, on a fresh sheet of paper, with tidy writing. "Thanks for saving her and for not punching me in the jaw. I still owe you 150. Callum." I smiled, folded it, and tucked it in my camera case. Callum never came to collect the $150. After that last note, we didn't talk much. But something had shifted between us, like two people nodding at each other from opposite sides of a river. Not quite friends, but no longer enemies either. Lulu stayed with me. She was still clumsy, still knocked over her water bowl daily, still made little hiccup sounds when she slept, and she followed me everywhere, down to the trail, across the wooden porch, even into the tiny shed where I edited my photographs. She'd nuzzle her head against my leg while I worked. It was the softest kind of companionship I'd known in years. I extended my cabin stay 3 times. Something about the fresh air, the rhythm of the trees, and Lulu's stubborn affection kept me grounded in a way the city hadn't for a long time. Then, one morning, I found Callum standing by the fence. He didn't knock, just waited, arms folded, as if debating whether to walk away again. I met him halfway. Everything okay? He nodded. I wanted to ask you something. I waited. You ever think about staying out here longer? I mean, full time? I laughed. You mean trade camera lenses for sheep feed? His face was unreadable. I'm serious. I blinked. What's this about? He hesitated, then looked past me. At the cabin, the hills behind it, the sky that never seemed to end. I've been trying to run this place alone since Liam died. My brother. It's not just the workload, it's the silence. It gets loud sometimes, you know? I nodded slowly. You think you could handle animals? Routine? Early mornings? I don't know, I admitted. You've done right by one, he said, tilting his head toward the porch where Lulu was sunbathing like she owned the land. I laughed. She's a better negotiator than most humans I know. Callum smiled. It was the first time I'd seen him do that. Then he handed me something, an envelope. Inside, a folded map, some keys, and a document titled Joint Care Agreement. You're offering me a job? I asked. A partnership, he replied. A trial, if you want. Split duties, split land. You help me bring back the West Paddock, maybe even lease a section for your photography business. I stared at the paper. It didn't make sense, but it also made perfect sense. That night, I sat by the fire with Lulu curled at my feet. I thought about city life, about sterile apartment walls, about inboxes full of deadlines and dinners eaten standing up. And then I thought about the smell of grass at sunrise, the hum of cicadas, the way Lulu's eyes had stopped darting in fear and started gleaming with calm. Could this life be mine? Could I really plant roots here? I didn't have an answer yet, but I didn't feel rushed to find one. Over the next 2 weeks, Callum and I worked side by side. We fixed fencing, built a shelter in the South Paddock. He taught me how to shear sheep without nicking their skin. I showed him how to use Lightroom to edit his photos from an old trail camera he'd long forgotten about. And somewhere in all that sweat and shared silence, a friendship took shape. It wasn't loud, but it was real. Then something unexpected happened. Lulu got sick. It started with her refusing milk. Then she stopped walking. Her breathing turned shallow. I rushed her to the local vet, heart hammering, hands trembling. She was dehydrated, feverish. They ran tests, kept her overnight. I barely slept. Callum sat beside me in the clinic waiting room, thumb running along the seam of his worn flannel shirt. You did everything right, he said. I should have noticed sooner. She trusts you, he said quietly. That's what matters. The vet returned the next morning. She'll be okay, she said. Just a bacterial infection. She's tough. I nearly cried. Callum did cry, but pretended he had dust in his eye. Back at the farm, I laid Lulu on a fresh towel near the fireplace and watched her sleep, chest rising with a steady rhythm. That night, Callum handed me something else, a photo. Old, faded, edges curling. 2 boys sitting in the grass, arms wrapped around a lamb that looked strikingly like Lulu. One of the boys had Callum's eyes. The other, softer, leaner, was smiling in a way that made my chest ache. Liam, Callum said, and the original June. I looked at him. She really looks like her, I said. She does. He hesitated, then added, I wasn't angry at you for finding her. I was angry at the reminder that something I thought I'd lost forever could come back, that someone else could do what I didn't have the strength to do. Sometimes it takes a stranger, I said quietly. Sometimes, he nodded, it takes the right one. The next morning I accepted his offer. Not forever, but for now. We registered a small farm co-op. June and Lulu was the name we jokingly wrote on the paperwork, but it stuck. A few months later, my sister visited from Sydney. You're glowing, she said, eyeing the land, the sheep, the sunburn on my neck. Who knew farm life looked this good on you? Lulu followed her around the whole visit. She cried when she left. Some stories start with adventure, some with tragedy. Mine started with a lamb, a thorn bush, and a man who didn't know how to grieve. but it became something far more rare. A second chance. Not just for me, for him, for this land, for the soft, trembling creature who brought us together. And no, I never did get my 150 back, but I gained something better. A place to call home, a friend I never saw coming, and a life I hadn't dared to imagine, all because I stopped and picked her up. Thank you for listening to The Story Voice. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And if you've got a story you think the world needs to hear, drop it in the comments. I might just tell it next. Until then, keep listening and keep feeling.